Welcome everybody to Lou TV. We got Andrew and Zach here to talk some Big 12 football. We've already made a pact not to just love on some Baylor players all night. I think what we're going to end up doing is maybe for each position give like the quick rundown of Baylor, because honestly we could probably sit here and talk about them for 30 of the hour, 30 of the 60 minutes. Andrew just woke up a nap, so let's not get him rowdy or anything. He probably can't handle it. How was the nap? Pretty good?
It's good, dude. Solid 2 hour one.
Dude, I found out that most of my naps, when I take a nap during the day, I feel so bad afterwards.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not,
I mean, compared to how I felt before, now I'm feeling good.
There we go. And Zach, what's up, man? Anything? What's going on with you these days? You said you were going to the PGA Championship this weekend?
Am. Saturday and Sunday. I
Nice.
leave actually tomorrow night to go.
So you're just hoping that, first you were worried that Tiger Woods wasn't going to be playing.
Yeah, now I got to worry about him like pulling a miracle round out of his ass and scoring, making the cut.
Yeah, now he's got to make the cut, Tiger.
Yeah.
You push through with the first miracle. Let's get another one. By the way, I'm not a big golf guy, but Andrew, you seem to like really be into golf. Who do you think's going to win this one? Is Rory just going to stay hot as hell?
Dude, I don't know. I took my buddy's golf picks because he's really into golf and put them into some daily leagues, and so far we're not looking that good. But that's what's great. That's what's great about daily golf, dude. I didn't realize it went over all 4 days. I mean, you get a lot of bang for your buck in that daily game, to say the least.
Yeah, or just a really slow torture,
Good point.
Who do you think's gonna win, Zach? Any idea?
I don't want Rory to win, but the way he's playing right now, man, I don't think anybody can get in his way.
Why don't you want Rory to win?
I don't know, man. I'm not a Rory fan. Maybe I'm just holding on to those Tiger days. That's kind of like the people that say Jordan and LeBron. They will never let go of Jordan.
I don't know. I've never been a huge golf watcher. I like to play, but
right.
I couldn't really care honestly who wins or not. I mean, I don't even watch the Masters on Sunday, to be honest, which is kind of like the exact opposite thing you do when you live in Georgia, but you can't win them all, I guess. So actually, let's get into this Big 12. Do you guys have like a storyline, any running theme that you've seen through the conference before we hop into the actual positions? I mean, what do you think about the conference as a whole, Andrew?
It's solid, dude. I mean, there's going to be some good fantasy points there. I guess it seems like there's more battles within a lot of these teams than there are within other conferences. Just 'cause, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's unsettled. I mean, we'll get into a lot of it, but I mean, there's also some teams that we're probably not even gonna we'll barely touch on. But I mean, overall, it seems like there's a lot of good potential for some of the standard Big 12 fantasy slugfests.
Yeah, Big 12 is a pretty good conference when it comes to offense, but there is a couple teams here that are just it's like, why? Why would you ever watch this team play? Why would you ever pick a guy on this team so you'd have to watch them play? It's just the worst idea ever. I mean, what is your theme or thought on this conference, Zach?
Kind of what Andrew said. There's a lot of unsettled position battles, but there's a lot of teams that have 5, 6 options at wide receiver. That it's kind of a wait and see who gets hot to play, because you look at West Virginia. They got 3 or 4 solid options any game. And then you've got TCU, of course, Baylor, so on and so on. But, if they spread the ball out to all of them, like they have been, it could be tough to play any individual until you realize maybe he's the guy to play. But yeah, that's what I noticed.
I think the only safe move is Baylor.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it in the pre-show, Bryce Petty, Antoine Goodley, Levi Norwood, and Shock Linwood would just all day. If you can fit it in, you're good. Phil Steele has 4. He does his first, second, third, fourth team, and one of these QBs to me does not fit. Okay, we have Bryce Petty, we have Jake Waters, second team, Trevor Knight, third team, and Davis Webb. Davis, not David. Davis Webb from Texas Tech is fourth team. Which one of these guys does not fit, Andrew?
I know you're not. I know you're not hitting on my boy Jake Waters already. I thought we'd get a little further into the show before we start ripping on the players that I own.
Dude, Jake Waters, come on. I know he's second in pass efficiency last year in the conference, but really, Daniel Sams was playing quarterback over him at times. And Phil Steele is going on a limb. I mean, if Jake Waters is that good this year, I will never, ever say a bad word about Phil Steele because that is impressive.
I agree, though. I obviously I hear what you're saying. If you were to rank fantasy potential, Davis Webb has to be up there with Petty. And, I mean, it's difficult to have too much faith in Trevor Knight, in my opinion, but just in terms of potential, like his skill set, the offense, and whatnot, if he stayed healthy, he could be up there as well. But it does certainly seem like Waters' fantasy value is capped just from the fact that he doesn't run much. He really only has like one dynamic weapon in Lockett. So I mean, if it seems like there's going to be at least some games where maybe he only throws for like 200, 250, a score or two, whereas like a lot of these other guys, you're looking at. You're looking at a conference with Bryce Petty and Davis Webb. So that's just not going to cut it in terms of top 2 or 3 potential in the conference.
Yeah, Zach, you have to have watched more Kansas State football than us here. What does Jake Waters do that he is like ranked this high, like for Phil Steele?
Well, you go back and remember Colin Klein. Like, he wasn't like a great passer, but he made plays, and maybe that's the route that they're going with Waters. That, okay, if Lockett's not open, let's you tuck it down, get your 5-6 yards, go to the next play. But when you ask of those 4 quarterbacks, which one I don't like Trevor Knight.
Yeah.
I would not. There is no way I would put my faith in Trevor Knight on my fantasy team. I know I'm thinking season long, but I don't know, man. I just get a weird feeling about Trevor Knight that he's not as good as they've projected him to be. He had a good game against Alabama last year to end the season, but come on now. We're going off one game.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, obviously I was talking about Jake Waters, but looking at it, I'm not confident at all with Trevor Knight. Like, I just can't imagine him being that good for that long. Like, I mean, like you said, one game. Alabama, honestly, they were not, like, in it. They weren't there to, like, win. They were there to win, but they just have the Alabama swagger they usually had. And Trevor Knight had a great game, awesome. But where were all those other great games against bad teams and average teams in the Big 12?
Another thing, like, if J.W. Walsh does win the quarterback job at Oklahoma State, if he is indeed the starter, I would put him on there before I put Trevor Knight on that list.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State, whoever wins the Oklahoma State battle is going to be obviously high.
He's the favorite to win it, but the other day, Gundy came out and said that he's going to get Dax Garman like 50 to 20 snaps in the first game against Florida State. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have some confidence if he's going to roll him out there against the defending national champion.
Right.
I think we can all agree Jake Waters, except for Andrew here. Andrew loves Jake Waters. Us two, Zach and I, are saying we're kind of iffy on Waters. I just don't see the upside with Waters. I see upside with Trevor Knight, and that's why I'm not that upset with him. But are you on Trevor Knight at all, Andrew? I mean, that's a guy to me that I'm not going to be getting in season. I would have to use him in a DFS-only type situation. I just think everybody's drafting him so high. He went very high in our draft, and I just can't do that for Trevor Knight right now. What do you think, Andrew?
I agree, dude. I mean, he burned me so hard last year. I think I took him in the first round in my keeper league, and that didn't work out, obviously. But I mean, he's outside of that one game. What did he really show? He showed some running ability. He couldn't stay healthy, and it basically the book on him was if he wasn't throwing on the move, like he couldn't just stand in the pocket and complete a pass. But I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that can succeed with that kind of who rely on their feet. But I don't know, the bar's really high when considering the price you're going to have to pay for him. And I mean, on a week in, week out basis, it's definitely, I don't see him meeting that bar.
Let me ask this. Do you think if DGB is cleared to play, Do you think that raises his stock at all?
Minimally.
I think it has to raise his stock, but honestly, DGB is not like a world beater to me. I think he's very good, but I don't.
But
I,
I mean,
just-
you
I
look
wouldn't
at
even. I don't
Sterling.
know. I'm not huge on DGB. He had games where he just disappeared.
Yeah.
Dude, with Knight, he couldn't even run the offense last year for most of the season. Like, he couldn't move the football against bad defenses. Against West Virginia, before he got hurt and left the game, they were going 3-and-out against a West Virginia team that looked horrendous for most of the season, and it was a game in the fourth quarter. And I don't know. I basically boycotted the Oklahoma-Alabama game just because, especially once Knight started lighting it up, I was just so pissed. But I don't know how good he looked. I'm sure there was a lot of reason to put stock in him from that game, but I don't know. One game is tough.
So, Andrew, is it safe to say you would rather have Jake Waters than Trevor Knight?
Factoring in price, definitely.
Yeah, price-wise, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're playing and what round you're picking him, but Trevor Knight's going to be a week-to-week guy for me. What about Texas Tech? We see a better situation for Davis Webb. Michael Brewer's gone, and who was the third guy that was mixed in there all the time?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield. I don't know what he's doing, but Davis Webb is going to be the. Oh, he did go to Oklahoma. Thank you for that. Which was stupid behind Trevor Knight, even to Trevor Knight's average. So, what do you think Davis Webb's potential is this year with the full season, or full season to be playing as the number one guy, as long as he stays healthy, but no Jason Morrow? What do you think is the upside for a guy like him this year?
I think his ceiling is extremely high. I mean, he was a freshman last year. He's coming in, and he for his freshman year, he got the hype going into this year to be a top 10 draft pick. Heck, I think in our league he went 4th. So, this offense is so conducive to, for him to have so many yards. Just, it's typical Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's a situation where they're going to pass. They have some returning receivers. They don't have Jason Morrow, but I'm sure they're going to. Yeah, I mean they're going to plug in some guys there. And we kind of talked about the tight end situation for Texas Tech. If that'll repeat itself, we can talk about that later. But they have plenty of receivers to throw to, and that's more of like an offensive style kind of thing than it is you need pure talent. I mean, obviously Michael Crabtree was great there because he was also very good, but I don't think it's a must in that situation. I mean, what do you think about Davis Webb, Andrew?
So I have a few thoughts on him. I think you can contrast him to Trevor Knight in that they're different. They're the same in that you worry about the injury because Webb's shown that he's brittle. I mean, he lost the job I think a couple times last year, not so much due to ineffectiveness, but just because he got knocked out of games. Other guys came in and ran with it. But when he finally had that amazing game against Arizona State in their bowl game, I think that really I place as much stock, if not more, in that than the Trevor Knight game, just because it really set the stage for this year, and he showed he was effective last year before that game as well. So, in addition to that, if you were to for Daly over the first couple of weeks, he's going to be very high priced, but assuming he doesn't get knocked out of the game, dude, he faces Central Arkansas and UTEP in weeks 1 and 2. I have no problem paying top dollar for him over guys like Mariota. I think his floor is so high. Like even when they get down to the 1, 2, 3 yard line, they're still throwing the ball. He seems like he's good for 5, 6 touchdowns against those cupcakes, no problem.
Yeah, and the crazy part is they took their running back and put him at linebacker.
Did that?
Yeah, Kenny Williams was the running back last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me. I don't know. Maybe that's the normal thing. Honestly, I can kind of see it because you don't make any money in the NFL anymore as a running back unless you're Adrian Peterson. In linebackers, I've actually read that. I don't know where. Maybe I just saw this on Twitter by some spoof, but that like players are starting to want to play linebacker instead of running back because they see how running backs get drafted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what a crazy! I saw that. I think we talked about that briefly one time randomly. Kenny Williams, they're starting running back moving. But anyways, now we have a bunch of like weird quarterback situations. Guys, teams like TCU with Boykin and Jokel. Then we have Iowa State with two. I guess Rohak is going to be the guy, but like Sam Richardson wasn't that bad last year. I don't know what the thing is there. And then also with Kansas, you have Montel Cozart as a quarterback, but not really a quarterback, I guess. But what do you want to talk about here first, Zach? TCU?
Yeah, let's go TCU.
TCU. Trevon Boykin and Jokel are facing each other. Jokel transferred from Texas A&M, correct me if I'm wrong, and is kind of penciled in as the starter at this point, but not 100%. I mean, what are you looking at there in terms of depth chart and then potential for this season?
I like Boykin. I mean, I know Andrew, we talked earlier, he doesn't really believe in him, but I like him. I think he's been there. He's kind of like Blake Sims at Alabama. He's waited his turn this whole time, and now it's his chance to be the guy. And, I think he can make plays with his legs that Jokel may not necessarily be able to make. But, again, that's why they might move him to receiver. Boykin to receiver and let Jokel start. So, it's so tough to call there. I think it's one of those week one they're going to say, okay, this is our guy. This is how we're going to go with it. Kind of like last year.
Dude, I don't think just because they go with a guy in week one that by the third quarter that guy's going to be playing that game.
No, I'm just saying like it's going to be tough to put your faith in one of those quarterbacks because you don't have any idea which direction they're going to go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Boykin started so many games that he didn't even finish last year. It seemed like.
Right.
And he's clearly got those desirable skills in that he's got a great arm. They have the new offensive system, and he's got good rushing ability as well. But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to translate those skills into being a good quarterback and just earn enough, do well enough, and within the game to necessarily trust him week to week.
And also, like they're loaded at receiver already. I mean, even my bad. I've listened to something here.
What are you doing, Zach?
My bad. No, they're loaded at receiver. Like they lost Brandon Carter, their leading receiver, and I still think that they're okay at receiver, even without Boykin playing receiver. They got Juwan Story, who is a Florida transfer, coming in. Josh Doxson. I mean, you've got David Porter, senior. They're loaded, and I think, if they get this system working right, I think TCU could be a pretty solid team in the Big 12 this year.
So, I was going to ask you that because it's one of those situations where, like, do you benefit more from adding a receiver? Like, maybe they're even, but your receivers are thin, so you throw Boykin in there to make your receiving core better. But it kind of sounds like they have guys to throw to. So, wouldn't you want the guy that throws better? Because it doesn't look, they lost Hubert. So now they need they don't have a necessarily. Because I always get them mixed up for some reason.
The purple, man.
Well, they don't have a running back that's solidified in the group, correct?
I mean, Catalon's supposed to be the guy, but he's not a 1,000-yard back by any means.
Yeah, so they're going to need a passer. Isn't Jokel the better passer? He's got to be. Andrew, this is where you throw in one of your Andrew comments.
I agree with you. You're doing a great job.
I mean, we saw Jokel play against, lowly Rice, and he played well in that first half against them that game. I think he can pass it pretty well. I mean, which one's the better passer, Zach?
Probably Jokel. And the thing is, if they put Boykin at receiver and he gets hurt, they don't have a backup quarterback now. So they got to look at that too. Like I'm sure they've got a guy down the depth chart, but those are the two guys. I don't think there's a third guy that's going to step in and take that job. So, I think that's another thing. Like you said, Boykin didn't finish a lot of the games that he started last year.
Will Boykin have receiver eligibility, you think, or no? He had like 11 catch games last year.
I doubt it, though, because I think before, I think the system probably set him as a quarterback until Jokel got there, and I think they didn't know who was going to win the job. So it may be, heck, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't want to speak for him, but go ahead.
All right, so before I get these teams mixed up completely, let's just go right to Kansas State's quarterback situation so I don't have to worry about this. We already talked about Waters. Have we crushed that enough, you think, the Jake Waters? Can we go back to hating on him again, Andrew?
You guys do you.
All right, so no more Kansas State. I'm a mess today. I'm a mess. The thunderstorm threw me off. How about Iowa State? Sam B. Richardson. Why does he throw the middle initial in there? And Rohak. Rohak's the starter, or Rohak, Zach?
Yeah, that's everything that any depth chart that I've looked at online says he is the starter.
I paid way too much attention to this one. I could talk about this all day.
Go ahead, go for it.
Iowa State's quarterback situation?
Yeah, dude. So,
Go for it.
Oh, my God.
first of all, Sam Richardson throws the B in there because they had a defensive guy who was also named Sam Richardson, who was on the team before him. And
Okay, well, honestly, that's great.
well, don't hate on Sam. But regardless, I think considering how much attention we pay to teams, especially when they come into new offensive systems, I don't think the Iowa State one gets enough love this year because Mark Mangino is now their offensive coordinator, and look at what Kansas was before and is now, and what they were with him. And I mean, he produced some absolute legends at Kansas: Desmond Briscoe, Todd Reeson, Tobin Oporum. But as soon as he got canned, basically for treating his players like garbage, they went back to being terrible old Kansas. But I think he runs as great, as fantasy-friendly an offense as there is out there, and you can get basically all the Iowa State players for free right now, like very late in your drafts. I mean, yeah, the quarterback position's unsettled, but I think whoever wins that, hopefully it's one guy and they stick to it. And it looks like, I mean, early reports are Rohak, but I don't think he has a stranglehold on position by any means, but I think there's a lot of potential in that offense.
Definitely.
Yeah, looking at the players, I mean, Wimberly was a solid player week to week. Bundridge had his good days, and I was talking to Zach before you jumped on pre-chat. E.J. Bibbs is an underrated tight end. Like, he's a very consistent guy, a consistent target for whoever's going to be a quarterback. You're kind of really selling me hard on these Iowa State guys, Andrew.
Dude, they got that super recruit too, Lazard.
Yep.
Super recruit. By the way, are you from Arizona? Are you from Iowa? Where are you from, Andrew? Because there's no reason for you to know this much about Mangino and Iowa State quarterbacks.
I'm from New Jersey, buddy. Come on.
So, did you not like kill it with Rutgers stats when we did? Because this is much better than your record.
No, man. I mean, how can you not love Mark Mangino? He's so lovable, and I mean, he's the best. I love him.
You just we'll move on. But you just said he treated his players like crap, Andrew.
He didn't treat Andrew like crap, though.
No.
That's all that matters. All right, so do we need to go into Kansas or West Virginia's quarterback situation? I mean, do we see any potential in those two teams, Kozar and Clint Trickett?
Yeah, maybe Trickett, because I think that offense they could do a lot of those little short dink and dunk passes that, if he gets rolling, he could maybe rack up a couple games where he might have good value. The first game, of course, is probably not a good time to play him against Alabama, but the next game against Towson at Maryland and Oklahoma, but the games against the Cupcakes, he might be a good play.
Trickett wasn't there for like spring practice last year, right? He was like a late graduation. I mean, so I think it's difficult to hold his not very good performance against him too much last year, considering he looked great at. I mean, I could probably look good at FSU, but when he subbed in for Manuel for a couple of games, he looked great. So I don't want to write him off completely. He pretty much didn't look good at all of last year, but like you said, Zach, I think it's not a 0% chance.
And I think his price will be low.
He was like 3,000 some weeks on Draft Street last year. It was insane.
Yeah. And, he is coming off shoulder surgery, and I've read that he's 100% healthy, and they've named him the starter already. So if that's not confidence, man, I don't know what is.
Zach, I thought you were going to want to drop some Montel Kozart knowledge on me. Because
no, I don't really like him. I like his weapons that he has. If you call them weapons, I guess, at Kansas.
I don't think there's such thing. I mean, Maybe Andrew over here has got some intel that gives us, knowledge to them being called weapons, but I agree with you there. And one quarterback I don't want to forget about, David Ash. I hear a lot of people liking David Ash. Maybe I'm listening to weird people these days. But David Ash, any fantasy potential? Is that more of a running back situation?
That's hard to say. Texas is a mystery to me. I guess the running backs is really the only place that I'm confident to maybe play Gray or Malcolm Brown. But David Ash is a senior. He's had quite a few concussions. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
don't ask David Ash. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just durability. If he gets hit one good time, is he done?
Yeah.
I just don't know if I would put my faith in that guy.
He had some really good games last year, but I guess outside of the fact that he might wind up in the hospital with any hit, Teddy Bridgewater was as good as it comes, and if he had a capped ceiling at Louisville just because Charlie Strong doesn't really run up the score and whatnot. So, I mean, if he could only put up so many points, what can David Ash do?
That's a good question, Andrew. I wish I had the answer.
And Jackson Shipley is out too. They say they don't know how long he'll be out. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valuable knowledge because I think that their receivers are got to be a little bit thin.
Right. Heck, they probably kicked half of them off the team.
Suspended the other half.
All right, running backs. Running backs in the Big 12. Shock Linwood, obviously. Is the backup at Baylor going to get some run? Because it's one of those situations where they get it by 1,000 points and they run the ball, obviously. And a lot of these guys are explosive on that team. So do you think the second running back in this offense is going to have any potential week to week, Zach?
I think so. I mean, if they're up 63-0 at halftime, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Who's the second? Is it Johnny Jefferson? Because I heard some rumblings that Johnny Jefferson was a boss.
Yeah, I think that's who I would go with.
What about Chafin, whatever his name is? Is he in the mold too?
I think so. I mean, maybe not until the fourth quarter when it's all set, it's already over. He might get garbage carries, but one of these guys goes down, you definitely got to watch, because any of these guys could go off. Because you look at last year, they had Seastrunk and Glasgow Martin, and they both were very valuable fantasy plays.
And yeah, Linwood was dropping 100 yards in the third quarter against these cream puffs last year. Right. If they establish a pecking order early on, and they play a terrible non-conference schedule, maybe that third string running back, second string running back they probably will be very cheap, and you might be able to get some value out of that in daily. I mean, it's gonna be tough to guess correctly just because it's one of those things where what if the game's closer than you think, or what if they just move on to the fourth string guy? But
right,
there's potential there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think Jefferson, man. I just have read a lot of people that really like Jefferson, and it'll be interesting to see. I think Phil Steele is on the Jefferson train as well. Texas running back situation. Malcolm Brown, Jonathan Gray. What kind of split running back carries do you think we're going to get, Zach?
I think we're going to get something along 60-40 in Malcolm Brown's favor. I think they're both very solid backs. It could actually get closer to 50-50 as we go through the season. But Charlie Strong, he likes to keep a balanced offense too. So he's going to and especially David Ash being so fragile, I don't know if they'll probably lean on both those guys.
Yeah, both of them are talented. Do you agree with the assessment 60-40, Andrew? Do you think maybe Charlie Strong comes in and tries to shake things up?
No, I think that's pretty much the way he runs the offense. At least at Louisville, it'd be the start. It kind of shook out similar to how Alabama would do it, where their starter would get maybe 3 out of every 5 drives, and then the backup would come in for a couple drives too. Which, from a fantasy perspective, you kind of like just because it sucks when you have that guy who's ultra explosive and only gets carries between the 20s, and then they bring in the the hammer guy to just get the touchdowns. But at least when it splits off like drives by drives, which is what Strong's tended to do last year and previously at Louisville, at least you can bank on, you can project better. I feel like what stats players are going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you there. I think, but it's also like if you're the guy that's the ground and pounds 3-yard running back, then you're also the guy that is always going to get the ball at the goal line. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, what if the drive is great on the time that Malcolm Brown's in and not Jonathan Gray?
Yeah,
it's tough. It really is tough, but that's a good assessment. Looking back at the Louisville days, Sonoris Perry and all those dudes were splitting carries for the most part.
Yeah.
No real guy that like really stood out. And with those two running backs and Ash situation, I can't imagine them not doing that.
And Bergeron just transferred too, so.
Bergeron was kicked off, and then I think I saw he was going to Texas A&M Commerce.
Yeah, I definitely got excited because I thought it said Texas A&M, and I definitely tweeted that out, and I was quickly corrected by one of my followers.
Followers, you've taught them well, Zach.
Yeah, and I was like, so I had to go back and read it, and I was like, oh, damn, he's right.
All right. Oklahoma State running back Desmond Rowland is probably one of the better running backs returning. Andrew, do you have thoughts on Rowland in this offense, or do you think it's going to be more of a passing game that you want to jump on here?
I think Rowland's. I think he's already banged up, right? Am I making that up? Or I'm pretty sure I saw something that Rowland's not practicing right now. But regardless, I mean, it seems like they're trying to get Tyreek Hill involved more with the rushing game in addition to the passing game, which isn't great for Desmond Rowland stock. Like, when I think Oklahoma State running backs, I think about like Kendall Hunter and guys previously who were the dude at Oklahoma State getting like 40 carries for like 250 yards. And even Rowland had some of those games last year, but I don't know if that's going to be bankable this year, just because it seems like you're trying to do some different things with the offense. They're talking about bringing in quarterbacks specifically for running situations. So, I don't know. I don't think I'm as sold on Rowland. It doesn't seem like everything's trending in his direction.
Well, you bring up a good point because I was going to mention Clint Chelf was like the guy that would score the rushing touchdowns last year. He had 7. I believe he had 7 touchdowns rushing compared to J.W. Walsh's 3. Is there a quarterback that's like the Clint Chelf, like the guy that's going to come in and just get like the 2-yard carries when they get close to the end zone? Because if not, that could be a situation where Rowland could repeat his 13 touchdown season, Zach.
Yeah, all I've heard about them is J.W. Walsh and Dax Garman are the two guys that they want to get time at quarterback. I think what they're really going to focus on is getting Tyreek Hill the ball. Mike Gundy said it. He wants to get Hill the ball no less than 15 to 20 times a game. So, and that's out of the backfield, out of the slot. I think with him and Juwan Seals, I think they're going to try to maybe open it up a little more. That's
yeah. Let's just touch on this because I guess I misinterpreted the Gundy quote. What's the deal with that guy who's not J.W. Walsh? Is he just another pocket passer? And if so, why would they try and mix him in? It doesn't seem like it makes sense.
Yeah, it was kind of news to me when I saw it. I was like, at first I was like, yeah, I haven't really looked into him much. I just know that they want to get him. They're preparing him for 20 snaps against Florida State. And to me, if you're going to prepare him for Florida State, he's got to have some value to your team.
Dude, but do you think that, like, well, I want to touch on a really random subject here in a second, but do you think that's, like, the coach just being like, well, I plan on being in the game against Florida State, so I plan on having a mix of some quarterbacks, get some time. Like, what happens if they're down 14-0 7 minutes into the game? Like, do you really think this backup is going to come in when J.W. Walsh has had success in the past?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what he's thinking. He may just be saying that to have Florida State prepare. I don't know. And by the way, I just looked him up. He's an Arizona transfer.
Sports editor Mike Sherman standing.
Who's that?
Sorry. Andrew?
Yes,
You're
it was
causing all kinds of shenanigans over
it
here.
wasn't me.
Dude, I'm trying to look up our boy Dax, and the Oklahoma website just dropped stupid like some video on me.
No, he's a Arizona transfer. By the way, Andrew.
Oh,
Right.
so he's a rich rod boy, dude. He must have like 2,000-yard running pedigree.
Well, he transferred in 2011, so
Oh.
Oh my God, an Arizona guy? How do you not know about this guy? All right, so here's my really off-topic random question, but it kind of is on topic because we talked about goal line quarterbacks. I thought I saw somewhere that an almost 300-pound quarterback or player is going to be quarterback for Ole Miss at the goal line.
oh god.
Am I like on my own here? Did anybody else see this?
Yeah, unfortunately, he only has quarterback eligibility in Fantrax, but he played tight end in JUCO, and the video is unreal. Like, you see this guy who looks like an offensive lineman running the option, basically.
It's like Jared Lorenzen.
Oh my! Except Jared Lorenzen was like more of a pocket passer.
Yeah.
Oh
Which,
my
by the
God.
way, have you seen his video on his of his like highlights of I don't know what league is he playing Arena League? No, seriously, when you have time, go look up Jared Lorenzen highlight tape, and you can see him. He's bigger and he's slinging it. But anyway, yeah. Back to Oklahoma State though. Yeah, man, I don't know about Garmin. They obviously have some kind of faith in him because they want to prepare him against the best team, arguably in the country. So
Yeah, that's a smart idea. You know, he's a man, and he's like 44 now, so he can do what he wants. That coach. I mean, what are we talking about running back here? Who's replacing Hubert at Kansas State? Anybody worse?
I was looking at this the other night because I'm working on this projection spreadsheet, and I don't know who to give a projection for on Kansas State's running back because they've got 3 guys. Out of the spring, it was Charles Jones. But when I go look at depth charts, he's not even listed. So I don't know what's going on.
The situation definitely worth monitoring, though, without Daniel Sams, and plus, it seems like they've always pretty much tried to go with one guy, and that guy's been like a lock for pretty much 1,000 yards every year.
Guy to watch, though, is the freshman. Is it Delvin Warmack? So he might end up taking that job and just,
Yeah,
who knows?
I think Andrew's right with the fact that that's a job you want to have, because last year you saw Hubert get a lot of touches. You know, Daniel Sams is gone, so there goes a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I think he had at least 10. And Jake Waters, sure, he runs a little bit, but like they're gonna want to keep whoever is running the ball, like getting the ball when it matters. I feel like down around the goal line. Tyler Lockett, he's a deep threat, right, Zach? He's not the guy that's the possession type, correct?
Correct. He likes to stretch the field. I think he's going to be kind of their everything at receiver.
So I guess the question is, if you're looking at this in terms of at least goal line touches with running backs, do you think Tyler Lockett is going to have the ability to do like the short slant or the the jump ball, or do you think that's not really in his skill set at this point?
He's not a very big guy.
They'll get him the ball every way they can, though. Like you
Yeah.
said, he's awesome, and I mean their wide receiver depth chart isn't great.
Agreed.
All right, so we do have a dark horse, Dalvin Warmack. Is that what you said his name was?
Yeah. That's who I'd be watching.
See, this is the problem with college football. We get on the show, and honestly, there's no reason to know who the Kansas State running back's going to be.
Right.
I just saw something the other day, or actually I didn't see it. Andrew told me about it. Marshawn Williams had like hernia surgery at the end of July, and nobody had any idea until like 4 days ago. Like 2 or 3 days ago, max. And that was like maybe 8 to 10 days after it happens.
Yeah, and see, that's real quick. I know it's about our dynasty league, but somebody wants to have an IR position. Well, sometimes these injuries aren't reported for a week or two after it happens. So he may not even be eligible for an IR until the site updates it, and it may not update for a few weeks. Just back to your point, I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you. I just think it's it's really, really tough in college. That was really my point. The fact is we don't know what's going on. I mean, Dalvin Warmack could be hurt right now, and we just have no idea.
You're completely right, Chris, but this works in our favor as people who aren't just paying attention to national media. Like, this Kansas State situation is one that it's worth your time to take that 5 seconds every day to just check Twitter and Google and see if there's new information on it, because that's not something that ESPN's going to report every day. But I mean, I'm sick. I'm twisted. I mean, I have a checklist of battles that I basically research every single day, looking for new information on, because I want to be ahead of the game on week 1, and that's the only way to get that route, to have more information than everybody else.
Yeah, Andrew.
I think it's a good thing that this stuff is reported nationally and that you have to do your own research to some degree.
Yeah, Andrew, I'll give you some props. Had a very good post in the college football section. If you're watching this, that means you're probably a college football fanatic. You need to check out his post on the fantasy college football or fantasy football section, and then it's under the NCAA subsection. He posted a bunch of different beat writers you should take a look at for each respective college. I went through it myself and added a bunch of the bigger schools, and honestly, I probably should have added the smaller schools because that's really what you're going to need to do even more research on. So take a look there if you haven't already. I believe Lou actually stickied it, so it's always going to be at the top. Congratulations on that one, Andrew.
Thanks, guy.
What other running backs do we need to talk about here? Wimberly from Iowa State, does he have some credibility, some potential at least in DFS week to week, Zach? Actually, let me take that back, Zach. Andrew, since you're the Iowa State expert here.
Dude, I thought Wimberly looked really good for a stretch last year, and especially against in the Texas game where he got like 30 carries for like 160 yards. But I haven't looked too much into the running back situation at Iowa State as opposed to the other positions. But I mean, if he gets a starting job and is getting 20 carries, I like him a lot. And I think he's middle tier in this conference. But I think we definitely need to spend time talking about the Oklahoma depth chart, especially in lieu of the events surrounding their 5-star recruit Joe Mixon. Do not draft him in a 1-year league, I would say. It doesn't look like there's a very good chance of him playing, considering he's going through the California legal system right now. But, Zach, does Keith Ford strike you as a guy that will get 20, 30 carries, or is it going to be more committee there?
You know the answer to this one, by the way, Zach. Okay?
What?
I said you know the answer to this one as a Keith Ford owner.
Okay. I'm not a Keith Ford owner.
I am.
Oh.
Do you know the answer? Keith Ford is going to be a boss this year.
I don't think he's going to be any good. I think you drop him. No, honestly though, I think it's going to be. He might be the lead back, but I think it's going to kind of be a committee situation.
He looked awesome though last year, dude. Granted, it was limited carries, but like you can see why he's an Oklahoma recruit. He looked very good, in my opinion.
No doubt. I completely agree with you. They've always seemed to have a multitude of guys in that backfield that they can kind of just plug in and go. So I mean, he's the guy. He's the guy. No doubt. I think he's the guy. But Oklahoma's so weird.
A multitude of guys though. I think it's more that it's just been a completely unexpected guy every year, going back to Dominique Whaley. And then who was the guy who took his job the following year? I can't remember who it was, but it always seems like a dark horse comes out of nowhere in the Oklahoma race. But I mean, just the nature of that offense, I think, makes the situation worth monitoring. And personally, I love Ford's talent. The only thing that scared me off from drafting him really early was the Joe Mixon buzz, which, I mean, right now that's looking non-existent. So I don't know, Chris. I like your boy. I like Keith Ford. I'm willing to talk trade.
Yeah, well, we might have to, the way Zach just downplayed him. That's why I picked him, was the fact he was young. Oklahoma has always had some running backs there. The problem is the whole mix of how many touches he's going to get. But where I was at, I was willing to take the risk for the upside. He definitely has had some really good games in the past. I wanted to talk about one last running back. West Virginia's dreamiest. Oh my God, DeAndre Kane is a basketball player. What's he? Why are we asking about DeAndre Kane in the chat? I was like, I knew the name. I was like, I know the name. I know that name. I couldn't pinpoint it.
But the fact that he goes to Iowa State, I believe he could be effective in Mark Mangino's offense.
We all saw him in the NCAA tournament. Okay, he is an athletic, agile player. All right, now so West Virginia's running back situation. Dreamius Smith had some good games, not good games probably but overall his season stats were not bad. He averaged like 4.8 yards per carry behind Charles Sims. Sims is gone. So do we think Dreamius Smith? You have him as the starter right now. Do you think Dreamius Smith can kind of produce some Charles Sims like numbers?
Sims he was a dual or all-purpose back, man. He catch out of the backfield, he could run. I'm not so sure he can put up those kind of numbers, but I don't see why he couldn't rush for 900 yards, because I think they've got 2 or 3 backs that are going to contribute, but I think he's the lead dog there.
I think this is going to be more like 2012, unfortunately, where we'd see a different guy go for like 200 yards, you go and pick him up, and then another guy would have a huge game the following week. It sucks because a lot of these guys are really talented. I mean, Russell Shell was one of the top recruits in the entire country when he landed at Pitt, and I mean, I was really looking forward to him this year at West Virginia, thinking he could take the role and run with it. But it just seems like there's so many good options that it's gonna be so difficult to trust somebody.
Yeah,
that'll be a tough battle there. What are we thinking going into the receivers? Do we have a number one guy we're looking at? Because I'm looking at 2 dudes right now, and it's kind of tough to pick one, but I'm leaning Antoine Goodley over Lockett. I mean, that's got to be the bet, right? But not by a whole lot. What do you think, Andrew?
Dude, it's so close. Can't we just rule out Goodley because we're not talking Baylor? But Lockett's going to get 20 targets a game. It's going to be just like those coming down the stretch last year where Waters was getting more reps than Daniel Sams. And I think he lit up Oklahoma for like 300 yards in the first half and then dropped 3 TDs on your boys Michigan in the bowl game. I don't know. What if they're throwing the ball, who else are they going to throw it to? It just doesn't seem like there's anyone else to really go with. Whereas at Baylor, I mean, you have a lot of things to worry about. A, the game being blown out of proportion by the middle of the second quarter. B, have a million different ways to score. I mean, Goodley is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna have to weigh the price and match up week to week, and if you're in terms of a daily perspective, because I don't think week to week you could say that Goodley is better than Lockett or Lockett is better than Goodley.
Well, the thing that I noticed last year with Goodley was he was like a lock for 8 to 10 catches, like 100 to 130 yards and a touchdown. Like no matter what, he was getting. You might have looked through his game log and seen like 26.8 points like every single week. Like it was that consistent. And Lockett was the guy that would get you like 48 points one week and then like 6 the next. I don't think it's going to be that bad in terms of floor because of the fact that Sams is gone and Sams could not throw a football to save his life. And maybe this is where your boy Water comes in and helps us out. But that's why I like Lockett, but I think Goodley's consistency is what really gets me to put him at number 1. But I certainly see why Lockett is up there. I mean, he's the clear 1-2 there. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, Lockett, to put this into perspective, they completed 197 passes last season, Kansas State did. He caught 81 of them. So, like Andrew said, like if they're going to throw the ball, the first, second, and third read is Tyler Lockett. So I think I would lean Tyler Lockett only for the targets perspective because I think Baylor's got so many different options that, Goodley, he may have 4 or 5 catches, but so could Corey Coleman, so could Levi Norwood, and if Levi Norwood is getting hot in that game, they might just keep feeding him the ball.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Baylor has so many weapons. It's like, why would you? I mean, you could always throw to Goodley and be fine with it, but
I honestly, in a daily, I might go Tyler Lockett and then one of the other Baylor receivers. like Corey Coleman or somebody like that.
Not Robbie Rhodes, though, right?
Yeah, no.
Not Robbie Rhodes. All right, so I think those two are clear number 1 and 2. We've kind of discussed how good they are. Phil Steele has Jakeem Grant as his last first-team receiver. Is he good, or is he that good, or is it more because of the ability he has plus the offensive style he's in, Andrew?
I think it's some of both, but just considering how much he's going to cost, both I think initially and daily and seasonal, it seems like he's going to almost have to put up like Brandon Cooks type numbers to justify that hype. It's getting out of control. I mean, I know he's shifty. I know he's projected as like the leading returning receiver. I know Davis Webb said a lot of great things about him, but like I don't. Do I see him as a guy who could go for like 100 catches and like 1,800 yards and 15 TDs? I don't know, man. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. While I think he's probably the third best receiver in the conference from a national perspective, I think he's getting a little too much hype.
Zach, Jakeem Grant, thoughts?
The only reason I like him is because they have to replace 189 targets between Jason Morrow and Eric Ward. And Grant had 65 catches last year, so that number on a PPR level, just that alone, I think he's looking at least 80, 85 catches. And, Brandon Cooks is a good comparison because he's 5'6", 160. So, maybe he's kind of the shifty kind of guy.
And he got banged up last year. Like he left. Yeah. I mean, he lived up to his body size. I mean,
right.
So, I mean, yeah, he could be a factor as the one receiver there too.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think Jakeem Grant could be good. Or good, obviously, he's gonna be good. A top 3 receiver. If he takes some of those catches in tomorrow, obviously he's not going to have because he's not there. He could have really big potential. The thing is he going to get the touchdowns that puts him in the top 3? And it just seems to be so tough for these passing-heavy teams to score with small receivers at the goal line.
I will say this, kind of going back to what Andrew said earlier. They open up with Central Arkansas and UTEP, and then Arkansas. So he could have really good value in those 3 games. And then after that, they get into their Big 12 schedule. But, I definitely give him a look in the first 3.
It's certainly with the talent that he showed last year and the fact that the offense is really – I think that's one of those offenses that it's benefit to be a smaller dude. One of those smaller, shifty guys that can find the seams and move in and out of the defense. I think that's a big benefit for him.
Wes Welker.
Yeah, the Wes Welker type, exactly. Second team receivers for them are, for Phil Steele, Shipley, Norwood, and a guy from Kansas. I want to talk about Kansas's receivers. You said you called them weapons. We'll decide if they're weapons or not here at the end of the season. But Nick Harwell is a guy that you really liked, or really like, I should say, at Kansas because of how good he was at Miami, Ohio. Yeah. For those that don't know about him, can you kind of fill us in on what we're missing here? A Kansas receiver number, the second team. It's insane. Yeah,
he was an absolute stud for Miami of Ohio. They weren't good by any means, but he was kind of like how Tyler Lockett is for Kansas State. He was for Miami of Ohio. Like every target that he was, anything that was like a big play, it seemed to always go his way. And actually, I shared the 2012 stats with you earlier.
Yeah.
I should have gone back another year because he had 97 catches for 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. So definitely a guy to watch. And then the next year he had 870 yards in only 9 games. And that was for Miami of Ohio. So
that wasn't when Ben Roethlisberger was there, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, I mean, do you think his potential is stunted at all by the fact that Montel Kozar is his quarterback?
I don't think so. I mean, he wasn't stunted at Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being that much worse at Miami, Ohio, or that much better, I should say, at Miami, Ohio. And then Nigel King, I believe that's Nigel King, correct? Is the one that just transferred over to Kansas?
Yes.
What kind of potential?
Is that the Maryland dude?
That's the former Maryland guy.
Got that?
He has been deemed eligible for the season, and he actually has a second year of eligibility. I guess I don't know what that came into effect, but he has 2 years of eligibility at Kansas. Before we get to Andrew's thoughts on Kansas having anybody being good, Zach, what do you think about Nigel King in this offense?
Well, since the news broke, was it today or was it yesterday?
It was earlier today.
Earlier today, okay. They've already got him listed in the depth chart and everything, so they must expect big things out of him. They've got King, Harwell, and Tony Pearson. I think that might be the three-man wrecking crew out there, I guess you could call it, as a wide receivers. Then you got your guy, what's his face, Jim A. Mundine.
It's the Forrest Gump tight end, Jim May. That's just such a classic name. I think Cozart's going to have. We didn't talk about him for good reason, but I would not be surprised if he put up a decent year. I think decent year is his upside. With the way he is how he's young. He didn't look that great last year because of how good his receiving core is. Tony Pearson's an underrated guy as well. Andrew, what do you think about Kansas receivers and maybe just the fact that Harwell's got some good numbers coming into probably just as good a situation as Miami, Ohio?
I never actually watched Harwell play, so I was relying basically just on the stats. So, I mean, I honestly have no idea how it's going to translate. But Nigel King, he looked pretty good last year in Maryland. I kind of get all those guys confused because it seemed like somebody got hurt there every single week and a new receiver would step up. But, I mean, I don't know, dude. Montel Cozart just looked really, really terrible, like in terms of actually being a quarterback last year. I don't know. I have pretty much no faith in him, his ability to maximize his receivers' talents. Can we backtrack real quick to the running back situation?
One second here, Andrew. I'm not going to let you get away with that comment. Earlier in the weeks, I don't remember which player, but it was a freshman quarterback that you said, we can't take what he did last year as a freshman as 100% what he's going to do is his sophomore year because he was a freshman. He has another year of experience. And Montel Cozart was a freshman last year. Andrew, redeem yourself and explain why you're doing this.
Because you have to take every situation case by case. You can't fall into narratives, dude. In general, and I mean, just because I justify one thing for a player doesn't mean I'm going to try and carry that over to another. And I don't know, dude. Like, Cozart might put up some decent fantasy weeks because he's a dual threat, but one of those threats pretty much isn't much of a threat, it seems. Like that. I mean, yeah, he could shock me and turn out to be a decent passer, and he's probably worth a flyer just because he's surrounded by a lot of options. But I mean, a lot of it also goes back to the fact that I have no faith whatsoever in Charlie Weiss to call a game or run a not dysfunctional team.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to call you out. Andrew, you're like the crazy Lee Corso personality right now on this day, or actually this offseason. You've been pretty ridiculous with how you've been, and it's awesome. So I'm going to call you out when possible. What did you want to talk about running back situation before I cut you off?
Just the fact that it seemed like it was amazing that James Sims actually managed to have a good year on the back-to-back years on that terrible team, and considering how much they love relying on the ground game at Kansas, do we think there's any chance that transcends over to this year with Sims being gone? Was it entirely just him being an amazing running back, or was it somewhat system based as well? Because the defensive must have known that he was getting the ball every single time. He still dropped 100-yard games, no problem.
Right. I think he was just a really good running back, very underrated guy. And I think this year they're going to kind of, like I was saying earlier, they have the wide receiver weapons. Why wouldn't you use them? Like Nick Harwell's a senior, Pearson's a senior, and King's only got 2 years of eligibility. So I mean, this is kind of what they've got, and they got to use it while they got it.
I backtracked. Montel for Heisman.
Montel for Heisman. All right, so Trevor. So let me get this right. Trevor Knight is the worst quarterback ever, and Montel Kozar is the dark horse Heisman trophy winner.
No,
I will send
you're
you.
right to call me out. I think I'm writing off Montel a little too quickly. I think you're probably correct on that.
No, and I'll say this. Like I said, I think his upside is just like an average quarterback. Like, there really was not a whole lot to look at. It wasn't like he made bad reads. He just does not look like he throws the ball like clean and accurately and quick like a really good quarterback should, let alone one in Kansas. So I'm not hating. I just, like I said, I had to call you out because, I don't know, it just sounded fun at the time. Who are other receivers to talk about in this conference? We saw Shipley's hurt. We talked about that. So we can kind of neglect him because, you know.
Bundridge from Iowa State.
Bundridge, Iowa State. I mean, what do you think about him? He seemed like really hit or miss for me last year. Was that the case? Or was that a couple of just weeks for me?
Yeah, it was definitely the case. I think, I'm going with Andrew here. Man, Gino's going to open it up, man. I think Bundridge is definitely in for a big season. He and Bibbs.
Yeah, historically, they've rotated a lot of guys in and out, and that's why it's been so difficult to count on their passing game outside of Bibbs, who, like, relative to other tight ends, has been pretty awesome the past year. But do we need to? It sucks if we end up wasting 5-10 minutes on this, but do we need to talk about DGB? I assume we do, right?
I think we should. The fact that he could be. I mean, let's spend a couple minutes on him. Let's not go all day with him.
He's probably the best receiver in the past 20 years, I would say.
Oh, my goodness. Objectively. For those that don't know, Doyle Green Beckham obviously transferred to Oklahoma. Now there's rumors that he's going to be eligible immediately. I don't know how that they could swing that, but if it does happen...
If you break into a house and push a woman down the floors, down the stairs sometimes, that's okay in the NCAA's book. This might be one of those times.
But just don't put extra icing on a cake.
Don't put extra...
On a cookie cake.
On a cookie cake. South Carolina, that was definitely Steve Spurrier's move to call that in. What a troll. DGB, how good of a season do you think we could see out of him if he is eligible this year? Do you think something like last year? Because James Franklin was kind of obviously more experienced than Trevor Knight, but kind of the same kind of quarterback where they can run it, but they also have some passing skills. Zach, what do you think about his potential this year? If he
well, they got to replace Jalen Saunders. So, I think 50 catches is a reasonable number if he's eligible game one. 50 catches, maybe 800 yards.
Seems so pessimistic. Are you putting those numbers out there just because he hasn't had a lot of time to get acquainted with the system? Are we hating on Knight?
It's kind of both. It's kind of both because, if he is ready game one, I just don't know. I mean, talent-wise, he's got it. We know he's got it. He's the number one recruit, in was a 2012 class. We know the talent's there. It's just, I'm not going to throw out the 80 catch, 1,300 yard season. I can't do that. Not in this offense.
Yeah, I don't think this offense has that kind of potential. But yeah, I agree with you there. Do you think, let's say if he goes for 50 and 800, do you think he's going to get most or a lot of those receiving touchdowns with his height? Maybe down close to the end zone. Do you think he's going to snag those touchdowns, or do you think maybe a guy like Blake Bell, or the fact that they could run it with both Ford and Knight down there?
I mean, I think you got to look at him. He's 6'5". You got it. Why not take a shot at it? This is my mini rant. If Calvin Johnson for the Lions, when they get down inside the 5, I don't know why they run the ball ever. I would throw the ball up to him 4 times in a row because he's going to come down with it at least once. That's that's my mini rant for the day, and I'm applying that to DGB as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of it, though, is like the fact that Matt Stafford is not always accurate enough, even though Calvin Johnson's pretty...
How accurate do you have to be?
Yeah, they say that Calvin Johnson can cover like a full soccer goal, or maybe as like a garage door or something like that. Sometimes Matt Stafford needs a full garage door, Zach. I mean, just ask Andrew. He knows about that, right?
Yeah, dude. I'll be honest. I didn't like him at UGA at all. Like, yeah, it just seemed like he was exactly what he is now. Just like inaccurate when you needed him to be accurate, and I don't know. Give me David Green or Aaron Murray any day.
So are you saying that my boy Kellen Moore should be starting for the Lions?
I am.
Oh my God, the quarterback predictions and thoughts out of Andrew today are really rated R. That's what they are. So you're saying Kellen Moore could throw a better jump ball to Calvin Johnson?
I could throw a better jump ball to Calvin Johnson. I don't know why. I don't know. Understand it. You know you got Reggie Bush. I know you got some talent in the backfield, but come on. You've got an elite wide receiver out there that's bigger than anybody that's going to cover him.
Yeah, you know what?
We're starting to turn into a real show where we like go off topic and like lose ourselves in the moment. I'm kind of enjoying it.
Well, no, this all relates to DGB. This is like a little subscript.
You're just comparing them. I gotcha. Really quick, Sterling Shepard. Any potential out of him, or is this kind of like if DGB plays, his potential to have a big season goes out the window?
I like Shepard. I think. I mean, once again, it all comes back to how effective Knight is. But in an average offense, I mean, it seems to me like I would pencil him in for 70 catches, 800, 900, 1,000 yards. Maybe not the touchdowns, only like maybe 5 or 6. But he's a great possession receiver. Like PPR, I like him.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a PPR receiver. And after Tyreek Hill at Oklahoma State, any receivers that we need to talk about? Is Jawan Seals probably the guy you want next, Zach?
Definitely. I think so. I think he's the guy. I mean, I know we're running out of time.
We can spend as much time as we want, Zach. And honestly, we actually have some tight ends to talk about. Typically, we're just like, oh, tight end sucks. All right, everybody, see you next week. This week, we have a couple guys to talk about. E.J. Bibbs, #1 tight end on the board in the Big 12. Andrew, I mean, is that the guy you're looking at the most?
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's not just a possession guy too. Like he had some long catch and runs where he burned deep defensive backs and safeties. Like he's very much a legitimate receiver in my opinion. Obviously, a little biased just in terms of Mangino and Iowa State, but I mean, I think 50 catches, 850, 900 yards, 8 TDs is doable. And, I mean, week-to-week tight ends in DFS, he's easily top 10, right? I mean, the position's so weak. I think you could probably make an argument for top 5, top 3, too.
Yeah. I mean, I was picking him last year anytime he was close to minimum. Like, that guy was – the thing is, when you're paying for tight end, you want some sort of floor. And he gives you a really nice floor of about 4 to 5 catches and about 40 yards. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing on DraftKings, like that's like 9 points, which sounds terrible. But when you're getting like 2 points out of like Arthur Lynch and you're paying, medium to above average price, it's the worst. And E.J. Biz for a while was the guy that was doing that for us. Next tight end on the board. I mean, I think Zach, you agree with me from the way you're shaking, or us with the way you're shaking your head. Is Blake Bell #2? Did he just go from quarterback to tight end and become one of the top tight ends in the conference?
It's very possible. I mean, I was reading something the other day for like a practice that he was playing very well at tight end, better than they really expected him to, actually. So, yeah, I like him. It's just, man, I think it all comes back to Trevor Knight, man. And the more I think about it, like I guess don't have the faith in Trevor Knight. But yeah, I like him, and your boy Jim A. Mundine.
Let's be real about Trevor Knight too. He could not lose the job all year. They could win 9 games, and that offense cannot be fantasy friendly for any of the receivers. That's it. Right. All those things could happen.
Right.
Well, it really looks like Oklahoma's defense is going to be one of the top defenses in the conference. So they could really not put up a ton of points and still win a bunch of games, like you said.
But they should blow out their first 3 opponents.
Did you guys see Blake Bell do the Oklahoma drill the other day in practice? They have a video of it. If you look on Reddit, he totally dominates this defensive lineman. I'll see if I can find. I mean, it wasn't like crazy, but it was like impressive for the fact that he was a quarterback a year ago.
It's weird because he couldn't get any rushing TDs at all last year.
God, it was so bad. What about Jimmy Mundine? Is he a guy that we're going to be looking at the end of the season saying, hey, you know, I rostered him probably 4 to 5 weeks or 6 weeks? Or is this really one of those things where it's like they have too many weapons and Cozart's not good enough to really feel comfortable, you know, rostering him week to week, Zach?
Well, they do have a lot of weapons, and I think, but he's the second leading receiver last year for Kansas. If that means anything.
Was that like 24 catches?
20.
God, that was.
I'm going by yardage though. But he had the most touchdowns on the team. He had 5 of their 9 receiving touchdowns. So he's definitely an red zone target. So 5 of his 20 catches went for touchdowns. I think that number goes up. I think his catch total goes up, maybe 30, 35.
Andrew, do you have any thoughts on Jimmy?
I don't know anything about him, man.
You're still hating on Kansas. What about Kansas State? Zach Trujillo. Is he a guy that's going to pop out maybe and be the second target for Jake Waters, Andrew?
Sorry, buddy. Don't know anything about him either.
Andrew, you're so...
These are such Zach questions. People like Chris, people like me and you don't care about tight end.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, to be fair, I really don't care about tight end besides Funchess and Amara last year.
And Monk.
Any thoughts on the rest of these tight ends? A lot of these teams don't play with tight ends. Baylor doesn't have a tight end. Who's the other team on there? Texas Tech. We kind of talked about how in pre-chat, like, are they going to replace Amara with a guy that's like the same size, or is Amara one of those once every 25 years kinds of guys? And we kind of agreed once every 25 years, right?
Yeah, I just don't think that they've got anybody labeled as tight end.
Yeah, West Virginia doesn't have a tight end really. Oklahoma State has a inside receiver / tight end, Marcel Aitman, 6'5", 210 or 6'4", 210. Who knows if he's going to be listed as a tight end? I mean, I think we see like 2 or 3 really good tight end possibilities, and then the rest are kind of just crapshoot, like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Why can't Baylor use a tight end? Because wouldn't that just be the most awesome thing to pick that tight end every week?
No, dude, they had one last year, and it was annoying because he'd get a catch for a touchdown, and it wasn't one of the guys you had, so it kind of sucked. It was that guy, Jordan Navier, and then they had a backup one, too. The less weapons for Baylor, the better. I think we should agree on that. We need to consolidate the Baylor touchdowns. Which actually brings me to something I wanted to discuss earlier but didn't get a chance to with Baylor. So just following that awesome offense the past few years, is like everybody who loves fantasy college football has, it seems like historically they've very easily supported 2 receivers, but the third receiver's kind of not, at least on a game-to-game basis. You've seen 2 guys blow up, and then that's about it from a receiver standpoint, just because they're up by so many points, they start to run the ball. And B, like, just their offensive style, they send 2 guys deep, Petty hits one for 80 yards, and then that's that. So this year, it seems like Levi Norwood and Corey Coleman are both have the potential to be that second guy. Who would you give an edge to?
Of the 2 guys?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, for Goodley and Norwood?
No, I meant to say Corey Coleman and Norwood.
Oh, I think Norwood, I'd give him the edge. Corey Coleman's going to definitely make a push this year. I think they're going to, I don't want to say spread it out more. I think they're going to develop some of these younger guys.
I hesitate because it seemed like when everyone was healthy last year, they put Norwood more in that slot role and let what's his name, Tevin Reese and Goodley run the 80-yard touchdown routes.
Right.
So I think that's worth monitoring. If Coleman's lining up in that Reese slot from last year, as opposed to the slot position where you just run like the 10-yard out route,
right?
Then he'd be awesome to play week 1 at a cheaper price. I I mean, I wish I said that I actually researched this, but I kind of just put this all together in my head just now. But that's something I'm going to be looking into leading up to week 1.
You know what really annoys me about Levi Norwood? His number. Why would you ever choose the number 42 as a receiver?
Why not?
42?
Checkers.
I mean, get some number etiquette here. We have, not that Robbie Rhodes is still here. He was number 3. Goodley's 5. Corey Coleman's 1. He's 42. Come on, Levi. You have no swagger. I think we've covered up pretty much all the fantasy relevant guys here. I don't think I need to answer or come at you with some crazy question like I typically do to you guys.
Real quick, I'm gonna kind of throw this question out there.
All right.
What do you guys think about Tyrone Swoops for Texas? You think he's got a legitimate chance to be an impact this year, or do you think he just kind of takes the back seat and just sits?
Only in that annoying way where like he comes in, runs the ball, and takes away points from other guys. Like, I don't know, man. Did he show anything from a passing standpoint? And I know he got a couple games late last year. Did he show anything that shows you he could be a full-time quarterback or no?
I know they talk about him like he's the next great.
Dude, my favorite swoop stat. I saw this on Twitter. Didn't bother to look up if it's actually true. Guess what his team's record was his senior year of high school?
What's that?
1-11.
Jeez.
How good of a quarterback can this guy be?
God, if you're 111 in high school and you're the quarterback, you can't be that good. You just can't. But was he the quarterback? Because he's 6'4", 240. He wasn't like playing tight end or something, receiver.
He was recruited as a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, but if you look at it, Logan Thomas was recruited as a quarterback, and he never played it down in high school.
Virginia Tech.
He never played it down in high school as a quarterback.
Yeah, hey, I don't know, man.
I mean, as it shows, he's still playing like a high school quarterback. Here's the question I did want to ask you guys. What do you? And by the way, Swoops, I don't really know a whole lot on him, so I can't really give you a good idea. But 6'4", 240 is pretty big.
Yeah.
And you know he might have an impact just because of the fact that Ash is gonna get hurt eventually.
Yeah.
He'd be an awesome minimum price start if Ash when Ash winds up in the hospital again.
He's the guy that I would probably roll out, like, not comfortably, but that's the guy I would roll backup wise, because you know how that happens. Somebody's gonna get hurt, and the backup is like, do I dare take a chance on Josh Dobbs because Worley got hurt, and then Josh Dobbs is worthless. But you know, at least Swoops has a better position, maybe just because he's got better height around him. My question, though, was who do you think is going to win the Big 12? Do you think Baylor repeats? Do we think Oklahoma? I shouldn't even ask Zach about Oklahoma. Or do we think a dark horse like Iowa State comes out of nowhere, Andrew?
I can't go that far. You know I want to, but I'll go with Baylor, dude. They're so cool and so much fun to root for. Like, and I just can't feel confident about Oklahoma for all the reasons we've said, just mainly being Trevor Knight. So I'll put my money on Baylor.
Yeah. Zach, what do you think? You think Oklahoma gets in there with their defense and maybe Trevor Knight figuring it out?
Well, I'm going to use where that game is played as the tiebreaker, and it's at Oklahoma. I'm going to lean Oklahoma. That's the only reason. I think that's the game.
Only a 29-point difference last year, right?
Hey, you know, I think Oklahoma's. God, I don't know. I don't like Trevor Knight. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't like Trevor Knight. I've been holding
I did not expect this to be like a Trevor Knight hate fest, but it really, you know, I think with us, I think we really look at like we want more consistency out of some of these guys because like we really shied away from picking or taking or whatever you want to call it or feeling confident on guys that haven't shown us something
right
besides one game against Bama. It'll be interesting to see how Trevor Knight does because he was hyped up really big last year. And you know, some fools were drafting him first round of their keeper leagues, and they got bit bad by it. That's probably I think Trevor Knight's got to be the most intriguing player coming into this season, don't you think?
Definitely, very polarizing. I mean, I'm gonna roster him on a couple of teams week 1 just so if I look like a complete idiot on this, at least hopefully I'll be a little richer.
Hopefully, Andrew. I hope we all are a little bit richer by the end of this college football season.
Agreed, buddy.
I I think unless you guys want to come in here and jump in here and say something, I think we've covered it all. I think we've gotten really baffled by Trevor Knight. I think we've realized that Iowa State's, the dark horse national championship contender. But yeah, next week we'll be talking about. Lord, I have no idea who we're going to talk about. Who are we going to talk about next week? Did we want to go SEC?
Dude,
We're getting close to this season. I think we can at least throw it in the conversation and think about it over the next day or two. I mean, we've been postponing it for so long because the SEC's, it's the
It's
marquee
elite
conference.
man. It's what everybody wants to hear about.
Exactly. But, what do we have? We have 19 days left. It's almost 18 now. We're getting there, man. We're getting close.
Hey, 16 days until the College Football Hall of Fame opens, boys and girls.
Sweet.
And I was in it today. It's unbelievable. You can, not talk to, but you can see, Sam Acho and Peyton Manning. It's pretty nuts. You guys have to come down, and I'll make you guys pay for it, but you can maybe stay in my house or something. I'll give you that much. We'll be back next week. I have no idea what day. We will get it out there and make sure everybody knows. I'm hoping maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but we'll see. You guys will be noted with plenty of time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.